All right, hey students. So on this video, it's going to be a little challenging. So fast forward, pause, rewind, whatever you have to do on this video. I'm going to go over 3 examples that your review has, and hopefully you can try the others and apply this to that. All right, so when we solve equations of rational expressions, the first part is to, yes, you want to cross multiply, but you first want to make yourself kind of make a list of the restrictions that way you can know if your answers will be good or not. So the restrictions are for you to find out when in your fraction are you going to have a 0 as a denominator, because that will result in undefined, and you don't want to have that. So what you want to do is look at what you have and find out what x values can you have that will give you that 0. So that way you know not to have those as solutions. So for example, you look at your denominators only, and you want to say, well, when are they going to equal to 0? Well, first you need to make sure you factor. That way you can have an easier way to calculate that. So here you have a difference of squares of something squared minus something squared. So we rewrite that as 2 binomials of x and then 5, and then a 1 with the plus, 1 with the minus. So this difference of squares becomes these 2 factors. On this fraction, you have x plus 5 already. So you don't have to repeat this factor. You can just list it out as a restriction of x plus 5 and x minus 5. When are these going to equal 0? So you look at it and you kind of realize that opposites will give you 0. Or you can do the math behind it and go ahead and move the number to the other side. And you realize as well that, x equals -5 and x equals 5. So opposites of what you have. So your restrictions are that x cannot equal 5 and x cannot equal -5. So just leave that as a side note. Like when you do the work for this, you cannot have these as answers. All right, so now let's multiply across. So I'm going to multiply with 6x, but multiply with the factors. That way you can have a little bit of an easier way to understand this. And then multiply this times that, and you're going to get 6x times x plus 5 times x minus 5 equals x squared times x plus 5. Now I just want to point out that 6x is technically 2 factors of 6 times x, and then x squared is technically 2 factors of x times x. So just keep that in mind. When you look at this big equation written down, you want to simplify it by noticing if you have any factors in common. You notice that x plus 5 is on both sides of the equation. So save yourself many steps by kind of dashing these out, because if you remove this factor from this side, then you have to remove it also from this side. The golden rule of whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Notice that you also have a factor of x, and over here you have 2 x's. So you could also remove one of these x's, canceling that one. Now, let's check what we have left. We have the 6 times x minus 5 equals x, because all of this disappeared. And then now we distribute 6 times x and times -5, so that's 6x minus 30 equals x. And then next we want to divide. No, not divide yet. We mean to move things around. We want to have the x on one side and numbers on the other. So this 6x, we want to move it by subtracting 6x. And that leaves you with -30 equals -5x. And to finalize this, you divide both sides by -5, and x will equal +6. So this answer should be the solution. So I'm going to use Photomath just to triple verify that this is correct. And let me scan it again. Okay, So this is saying that we are going to have 0 and 6. So the reason we have that 0, it's because of the x that we took out, I'm assuming. If you don't cancel these out, what's going to happen is that you're going to have these factors of x equals 0, and then you're going to have x plus 5 equals 0, because that's what you're trying to check. When are they going to equal 0? Now, this x plus 5 is similar to what we had in the restriction. And x plus 5 ends up being x equals -5. And if you notice, out of these solutions, x equals -5 is the one that you cannot use because of the restriction. So this will be like an extraneous solution. And then that's how you end up with these two as your solutions. All right, so let's try another problem. In this problem, this is a level 5. Yep, both of them are level 5. So let's just do one. It doesn't matter. In this problem, we want to apply the rule of, in order to solve equations, you need to have like a proportion where you have a fraction equals another fraction. So you can then cross multiply and solve for x. So if you notice right here, we don't have one fraction on this side. We have to first subtract these together and create one fraction, and then come back to solving the equation. So let's do that first. Let's apply the steps of simplifying this expression. We need common denominators. We don't have common denominators, so what we're going to do is multiply each fraction times the opposite, because that's how you can convert this to common denominators. So multiply x minus 2 on both sides of this, and then x minus 1 on both sides of this. And then you simplify this to x squared minus 2x over x minus 2 times x minus 1 minus, multiply this 2 and you get x minus 1 over x minus 2 and x minus 1. After this, you want to combine your numerators. However, keep in mind this is a subtraction, so you want to do those parentheses and distribution of negative times x and negative times -1. And then you bring down what you have on this side over your denominator. From here, we combine like terms to simplify this fraction, and we're going to have x squared minus 3x plus 1 over x minus 2, x minus 1. You want to just double check that this trinomial cannot be factored. If it can, go ahead and factor it and see if you can dash any factors out. So a times c is 1, and b is -3. So the only factors of 1 is 1 times 1, and that cannot give you -3. So this numerator cannot be factored. What we're going to do next is write your equation out. So this is the fraction of this left side. X squared minus 3x plus 1 over x minus 2, x minus 1 equals 2x minus 5 over x squared minus 3x plus 2. So on this one, we want to cross multiply. We'll actually factor first. And we already saw that this didn't factor. And then this one, we had to double check if it can be factored. So 1 times 2 is 2, and then the -3. So to get 3, or actually 2, we need to multiply 2 times 1, or 1 times 2. And then to get -3, you need to have both of these negative. So that results in rewriting this fraction as two binomials of x minus 1 and x minus 2. Okay, I'm just going to copy this down. And then now, there's a lot more steps to this, so I'm going to grab another paper. I'll just do it in an index card. Now we want to cross multiply. So these two together. So that's x squared minus 3x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 2 equals, and then these three together. So that's x minus 2 and x minus 1 and 2x minus 5. So here we notice that we have the common factors of x minus 1 and x minus 2, so we can cancel those out. And that leaves you with x squared minus 3x plus 1 equals 2x minus 5. From here, we move things around because we have a square. That means we have quadratics. So we need to have 0 equals the expression or the expression equals 0. So we're going to move these two to the left since they're just less terms to move. We're going to subtract 2x from both sides to cancel this. And we're going to add 5 to both sides to cancel this. So that's going to leave us with x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. Next, we want to factor this trinomial, and we're going to have a times c, which is 6, and b is negative 5. So to get 6, we do 2 times 3 or 1 times 6. If we do 1 times 6, we'll have to have one of these be negative. But negative times positive is negative. So that's not going to work. The other option is 2 times 3. 2 times 3 can give you negative 5 if both of these are negative. And negative times negative is positive. So that's going to work. All right, so that gives you these factors. And then to solve for this, you need to write each factor individually and ask yourself, what x value can I have? And that they will give me 0. So we have x equals 2, and then we have x equals 3. These are the solutions. Now I noticed that we didn't do restrictions. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to trace back my steps to where I had the denominators. And we notice that to get the restrictions, we will have the factors of x minus 2 and x minus 1. They're both the same on both sides. So even here, see? So we can just solve for these. So x equals 2 is a restriction, and x equals 1 is a restriction. Now, if I compare the answers, it looks like the 2's are in common. So 2 was a restriction, so this is the extraneous solution. And this is your solution. And then I'm going to just check this in Photomath to see what Photomath says. And Photomath is saying that the answer is 3. So that's the answer we're saying. All right, one more problem. Here is another problem similar to the one we just did. Again, you have to have two fractions, one on each side, in order to do cross multiply and find the answer. So this part needs to be merged together. Let's ignore the left side and focus on subtracting these two. So in order to subtract, we need common denominators. this denominator has a GCF of x times x plus 1. And we notice that x plus 1 is there, so we just need to add x to this fraction. So we multiply times x, numerator and denominator, and we're going to end up with 1 over x times x plus 1 minus, if you multiply these two, you get x times x and x times -6 over the two factors that we have already. Now that we have common denominators, we're going to focus on the numerators. And again, this is a subtraction, so we have to multiply that negative in. And we're going to end up with negative x squared plus 6x. Bring the 1 down. And now you have this. Simplify this and you get negative x squared plus 6x plus 1 over x times x plus 1. Now on this one, the numerator has a negative. So let's take out that negative and divide everything by -1. So that gives you x squared minus 6x minus 1. Let's check if 1 or the trinomial can be factored further. So a times c is -1, b is -6. Factors of 1 are just 1 and 1, and that will not give you 6. So we'll just leave it alone. And pretty much this is the answer, but there's so many ways to write this answer. So let's see what Photomath has to say about this one. Okay, so Photomath is giving me the answer to the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it like this. And now I'm going to write the equation. So this x plus 5 over x squared plus x equals this equation right here. So negative x squared plus 6x plus 1 over x times x plus 1. All right, so that will be the equation. We found what these two equal as a fraction, which is this, and then we're writing the equation saying this left side equals this fraction right here. So now let's apply the solving steps. We want to have factors. So let's factor that. That's going to result in x times x plus 1. And then you noticed that they're the same. So what's going to happen here is that when you cross multiply, you're going to have x times x plus 1 times negative x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals these two. So x plus 5 times x plus 1. And now you realize that we do have these common factors that we can cancel out of the equation. And then we can write negative x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals x plus 5. And then here we're solving for x. So what you want to have is everything on one side. I don't think you guys like working with negative x squared, so let's move this 3 to the other side. So positive x squared, positive x squared. There's nothing else squared, so this is a separate factor. Separate term. Then 6x, we want to cancel it by negative 6x, and then that one, negative 6x, will be merged with this positive x. And then this 1, we subtract 1, and that negative 1 will be merged with this positive 5. So we're going to have 0 equals x squared, and then 1 minus 6 is negative 5x. And then 5 minus 1 is positive 4. So here we are going to ask ourselves, can we factor this trinomial? So we're going to have a times c, which is 4, and then b, which is negative 5. And you ask yourself, what do you multiply to get 4? So the options are 2 times 2 or 1 times 4. 2 times 2 will not give you 5, so 1 times 4 will. if we have -1 and -4. Negative times negative is positive, and -1 minus 4 is -5. So that works. We're going to put x minus 1 and x minus 4. These two factors, we write them separate, and that's how we get our solutions. We add 1, so x equals 1. And we add 4, so x equals 4. These two are the solutions, but once again, we didn't do the restrictions. So option A, you can either plug these answers into your original equation and see if they are true, or option B, you write the restrictions. So if we look right here, these are the denominators we used for our equation. So let's do the restrictions real quick. We're going to look at the factors of your denominators. So both of them are the same. We're just going to use x and x plus 1. We want to find out when they equal 0. So x equals 0 is already simplified, so x cannot equal 0. And then this one is minus 1, so x cannot equal -1. So this is a positive one and -1. So that means these both are your solutions. All right, I know it's a long video, and I really hope that this helped you. Good luck tomorrow on the test.